My uncle has prostate cancer.
My grandmother has diabetes.
My mom has anxiety.
I have 6 women in my family with breast cancer.
So when things in our environment can cause these diseases.
How are we exposed to these things?
Does that mean I can get it?
Through our research of things in our environment that are linked to these diseases, we can come across bisphenol A.
We were astonished to find how many diseases were related to BPA. Article by Maffini, BPA can cause negative health effects such as cancer, disease, and miscarriages in pregnant women. The most important of these cancers include breast cancer, affecting 18% of lab animals, and prostate cancer, affecting 85% of lab animals.
So what is bisphenol A?
Bisphenol A is a toxic chemical found in canned foods and plastics. BPA is a synthetic estrogen, meaning that it mimics the hormones estrogen in men and female bodies.
In the cell, we have receptors. These receptors are found on the cell membrane and inside of the cell. Estrogen is a hormone produced in the ovaries. This hormone binds to the receptors in many different parts of the body. When estrogen binds to receptors, it triggers a cascade of events necessary for proper development, especially in girls.
BPA behaves like estrogen and binds to the same receptors. BPA, unlike other molecules, can easily pass through the cell's membrane. When BPA enters the cell, it binds to the estrogen receptor. However, unlike estrogen, this does not lead to a cascade of events. BPA also hinders the receptor by stopping it from binding to estrogen.
BPA affects the same organs as estrogen.
What is it used for in products?
This question is what led us to investigate what items have BPA. It turns out both Coca-Cola and Campbell's tomato soup have a BPA liner. But what does the liner really do? For our experiment, we had a control group and an experimental group. For our experimental group, we scratched the lining of the cans using sandpaper. For our control group, we left the cans with the liner. We put the pieces of cans in Petri dishes and covered them with Coke and tomato soup. Every day we took the pieces of cans out of the Petri dish, rinsed them, and examined the changes. We examined color change, texture, and flexibility. We followed this protocol for 10 days. We found that the experimental group of scratch cans changed and developed a small amount of rust. The Coke can was more flexible and also changed color. The control group of the unscratched cans did not change at all. So what does all of this data suggest? BPA liner is used to maintain the can shape, structure, and flexibility. Without this BPA liner, we would drink rusty Coca-Cola and moldy tomato soup.
In our investigation, we learned that BPA makes Coca-Cola cans strong. We were wondering if this was true for plastics as well.
This is why we decided to interview Dr. Freeman, a biology professor at St. John Fisher.
Sure. The fact that BPA from a non-health perspective is actually a really amazing chemical. It does wonderful things. It takes plastic and it makes plastic better. That's why it's in everything. It takes plastic that you would use to store food, and in the past, if that food container would have taken on the flavor or the smell of the food or stained, BPA-based plastics don't generally do that. But the problem is BPA, and I'm not a chemist, but I would argue that it's perhaps not as stable as they would hope for in these compounds or in these plastics, because it comes out of the plastic and it enters the food or the water that you have stored in those things.
BPA is found in many items such as bottles, cans, receipts, etc. When you touch these receipts, BPA enters your body through the many pores of your skin. Once BPA enters your body, it uses the circulatory system to move around. That's right, it uses your bloodstream. Bottles containing the number 7 contain BPA. This is very dangerous because the chemical can leak into the liquid when the container, such as a reusable water bottle, is left out in warm conditions for an extended amount of time. For example, our friend Sonia Lace drinks water from her reusable water bottle that has the number 7 on it. What she doesn't know is that when she drinks water, she is actually drinking BPA as well.
We decided to interview Dr. Paige Lawrence, a microbiologist at the University of Rochester, to find out how many people have BPA in their bodies.
I think the CDC, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, says like 93% of people in the United States have BPA in their blood or in their urine. So we all have BPA in us.
What if BPA really is harmful and people continue to use it without even knowing? So how do we avoid BPA?
There's plastics that probably should be avoided for human health. 3s, 6s, and 7s are the ones that we typically talk about avoiding. Those are the ones you don't want to sort of play with. But 1s, 2s, 5s, 1s, 2s, I guess 4s, 5s are less known with regard to problems associated with human health.
I think we don't know yet whether there's a safe level of exposure. I mean, I just don't think that there's been enough research done yet to actually know if there's a safe level.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration ruled in April 2012, despite research on the negative impact of BPA on women, men, and children, BPA can still be used in food and beverage containers. The FDA has called for additional research on the toxicity of BPA.
Did you know that Japan has taken BPA out of their products? Well, I think the United States should do the same. To do this, we need to use other things beside epoxy-based materials and BPA in packaging.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know.